All right, good evening again, everyone. And we are continuing on with the names of God. And so tonight we're going to look at a couple, and the first one we're going to look at is Yahweh Nisi. That's kind of hard to see up there. Whoop, Yahweh Nisi. And so let's just read the scripture first. This is Exodus 17, 8 through 16. And it says this: the Amalekites came and attacked the Israelites at Rephidim. And Moses said to Joshua, choose some of our men and go out to fight the Amalekites. Tomorrow I will stand on top of the hill with the staff of God in my hands. So Joshua fought the Amalekites as Moses had ordered, and Moses, Aaron, and Hur went to the top of the hill. As long as Moses held his hands up, the Israelites were winning, but whenever he lowered his hands, the Amalekites were winning. When Moses' hands grew tired, they took a stone and put it under him, and he sat on it. Aaron and Hur held his hands up, one on one side, one on the other, so that his hands remained steady until sunset. And so Joshua overcame the Amalekite army with the sword. Then Yahweh said to Moses, write this down on a scroll as something to be remembered, and make sure that Joshua hears it, because I will completely blot out the name of Amalek from under heaven. Moses built an altar, and he called it Yahweh Nisi, or the Lord is my banner. And he said, because hands were lifted up against the throne of the Lord will be at war against the Amalekites from generation to generation. So Yahweh Nisi, this is kind of an odd one, but it means Yahweh is my banner, or Yahweh is my standard, or a couple different words, but we'll talk about that. Now we don't use this kind of language much anymore, and we don't really fully understand sometimes the imagery if we don't go back and look at what actually was going on. So what is a banner? Well, it meant a lot of things. It was something, it was lifted up on a pole, and it was a sign for everyone to see. It was a signal in the battle. And so what today we might consider it is a flag. Today we might just consider it a flag. There we go. So again, but we don't always use the flag like that when we go to war necessarily like they did, but we use flags to identify different countries, different cities, and we don't always carry it except like in parades and special events and sporting events. But our soldiers always wear the flag of their country on their uniform somewhere, so they know whose they are. And so we may consider it a flag. One of the words that I really like is a standard. And that is a good word, because that's what this is. It was actually the standard. And so we're going to talk a little bit about that in just a second. But what is the standard? How did they use the standard or the banner? Again, I'm going to use standard and banner interchangeably. If you like flag, that works too. But here's some facts about in their day. The standard went before the army. So the first person to go into battle was the person carrying the flag. Now, let me ask a question. Who do you think is going to be the first person to die?
The guy with the flag.
Yeah, the guy charging the enemy with his sword drawn, or the guy holding the flag? Well, and they had a thing that when the flag bearer went down, whoever was closest dropped their weapon and picked up the standard, picked up the flag. The flag could not fall. And we'll talk about why in just a second. But the flag always went before the army. So if you imagine two armies coming together, their flags are flowing and they're getting closer. And as the two flags come together, then they begin to fight. And so the flag, the standard, was always first. It was always out in front. And it provided identity. You knew who was fighting. If you just happened to stumble upon a battle, you could tell by the flags who was fighting. If we did it today, you know, if we had the American flag, which is unmistakable for us, and then there was the other side was a flag with a big red maple leaf. Well, who's fighting? We're back to Canada, right? If it was a big round red circle and a field of white, Well, we know, or some of us know, that that's Japan, and so it's Japan against the United States. So it provided an identity. When you saw that banner, you could remember your identity, and you knew why you were fighting. So if you were coming behind it, you were always looking up at that standard, and that's why you're fighting. That's the reason you're at war, not the enemy, but you're fighting. And so if God is our banner, we're looking up at him saying he is why we're fighting. And so it provides identity, and it lets us know who actually is fighting. And then it did something else. It shows the progress of the battle. Now think about it. If you've got two large armies coming together of soldiers fighting hand to hand, how do you know where one starts and the other one stops? You may not, because it's a huge mess. But if they're in lines and the flags the standards are at the front, then you know where their army starts and the other one stops. Yes, sir.
Well, and from that, all we have to look at is the Star Spangled Banner.
Right.
You know, came proof through the night that our flag was still there.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. And so it's shows the progress as that flag moves forward. You can tell the army's moving forward. If you see that flag moving backwards, don't keep running forward, right? Because you're obviously retreating. So move with the flag, move backwards, so you can tell. And if the flag is moved way through the other side, then you know that you're winning. And basically you can tell the progress of the battle as it is going along. But it also served as a rally point. So imagine that you have a war breaks out, but people aren't really ready for it. Like, here come the Amalekites and they attack. Well, there are shepherds out in the hills who leave their sheep to come fight. And so they come running in. How do they know where to go? They simply look toward the flag. They simply look toward the standard. And when they see the standard, they go toward it. So they run to the standard so they know where to rally. They know where their people are. They know where their army is, and they know where people are at. And so they can tell where the army starts, where it's going, and they know where to join the battle and be the most effective. And so it serves as a rally point. So that is the standard. That is what Nisi means to the Hebrews. But I want to say a couple things. We have a phrase that we use in English, like set the standard or live up to the standard. What is that? Well, a standard then is a measuring stick for how well you're measured, right? Think about it in these terms. It is actually the measuring of God. It is God going before us, and he sets the standard. He is the one who tells us where we're going to fight, when we're going to fight. He is the one who we have to live up to. He's the one we have to honor. And so when he sets the standard, that is his banner or him, then we follow him, and we are yielding to him. And so I just like that because, we talk about living up to the standard. Well, if you run away from a battle, you're not living up to the standard. You've neglected the standard, again, the banner. You've run away. You've proved to be a coward. So don't abandon the standard, but live up to the standard. Follow the standard. And those things all mean much more when we understand that it's God who is going before us, and he is our standard. But then we have this other phrase that I really like too. And maybe you've heard of this. There's a double standard. What does that mean? Suppose that we went to war and I come running out with a flag that's the American flag, and somebody else comes out with the Mexican flag. And then the enemy comes out with their, and we're confused. Wait, who do we fight? Do we fight the Mexicans? Do we fight the Americans? Do we fight the other side? A double standard means there are two flags, there are two banners. And what happens in our life spiritually when we have two things to follow is we can't follow properly. We can't follow either one. In fact, Jesus said in the New Testament, man cannot serve two masters. You have to choose one or the other. And so a double standard means we have different flags going on at the same time. So if we're trying to follow sin, then we have a double standard because we're claiming to be gods, but yet we have sin in our lives. And so God then is the true standard, but we've brought in this false standard or this other standard. And so a double standard is not a good thing when it comes to the Lord. And so I don't always like to picture us in battle because I think that makes us combative a little bit towards the world, but we are technically in this war of good and evil, and we're in this war. We're going to keep talking about that here in a second, but we are following the standard. So when God goes forward, we move forward. When God moves backward, we move backward. When God camps for the night, we camp for the night, so to speak. And so he is the rallying point. He is our progress. He is the way we measure everything we are. And so that, to me, is why Moses called the altar Yahweh Nisi. God is my banner. God is my standard. God is my measurement. God is my flag. God is my identity. God is my, and all those things work together in that one word, Nisi. And so that is Yahweh Nisi. God is our standard.
Hey,
And
Jeremy?
so, yes, sir.
Verse notes.
One of the things that comes to mind with flags is that some flags aren't just put together because, oh, this is the color of our country or whatever. I mean, the American flag has a meaning in everything.
Right.
So that whole notion of it, there's not just some shallow art to this.
Correct.
There's more to it.
Yes.
And it's very easy to be a Christian to say, well, God created me and I love Jesus. But if you then understand all the different permutations that leave you that you should want to know,
right,
to love God, to love Christ, to understand what it means. It's like a relationship. The deeper, the more depth of that relationship, the more understanding of the faults and the quirky and all the other stuff makes that relationship so much more meaningful, so much more loyalty comes from it. All of that can be a part of it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Excellent. Every flag tells a story. Every flag. Say that again?
I thought it was every picture.
Well, yes, but now a picture paints 1,000 words.
Oh.
That's why people want me to start doing sermons with pictures. They think they'll be
ice castles. I just have ice castles there.
So every flag tells the story of the army. It tells the story of who they're following, why they're fighting. And you're right, they didn't just pick random things. And so God certainly didn't pick random things. And so if he's our banner, then he tells the story that we follow of, hey, yeah, it's salvation and all those things. And that's very good. So that's Nisi. Now we're going to keep talking about Nisi, but we're going to move into the next one here a little bit. But I want you to remember the flag, the standard, was on a pole and it was lifted up. That's what a flag is, right? Now we have flags that are like set in the ground in concrete, but they would get a big pole and the flag would be on the top. And so it would wave above everybody. So no matter who you were, you could look up and see it, right? To be inspired. And you could know that was there. So let me move my box there and we'll get this. John 12:32. And Jesus said, and I, when I am lifted up from the earth, will draw all people to myself. So we put the flag on a pole and it goes before, and then here comes Jesus. We put him on a pole and lifted him up. And we lifted him up for all the world to look at and see. And then we get to decide if we want that to be our standard or not. He draws all men to us, but he doesn't force us. And so we choose whether or not we want him to be our standard or not. And again, I used to think that was a one-time thing. I did that when I was a child and I'm sitting. No, it's an everyday thing. Every day I choose to follow Jesus. Every day I choose to be like Christ or not be like Christ. Every day I choose to live the way he wants me to or the way my selfish desires drive me. And so he was lifted up. And so Jesus is our standard. Jesus is our banner. Jesus is the reason that we fight and the reason we move forward. and the reason we have love and all the things we do. So now we're going to, these two go together really well. So we're going to keep this idea of Nisi, the banner, the standard, but then we're going to go into Yahweh Sabaoth. Sabaoth. That TS is really hard for a lot of people to learn. I love it. Sabaoth in Hebrew. So let's look at the scripture here. The first scripture is 1 Samuel 4:4. So the people sent men to Shiloh, and they brought back the ark of the covenant of the Lord Almighty, Yahweh Sabaoth, who is enthroned between the cherubim. And Eli's two sons, Hophni and Phinehas, were there with the ark of the covenant of God. Hophni and Phinehas.
Could it be Phineas?
It can be, but it's not.
Okay.
I always said it that way, but that's in English. I mean, it is in English, but honestly, I don't say it properly, because when you say it properly in Hebrew, it sounds very much like another English word that a pastor shouldn't be saying in a sermon. And so, because I said it correctly once and all my youth just fell out, they're like, did you just say that? And I'm like, that is not what I said.
Pastor Smith said.
So it's actually pronounced Pinhas.
Oh.
Pinhas. So imagine me talking really fast and excited about Hebrew, and I said, and his name was, and then moving on. Yeah. So Phineas worked just fine for us. All right. Now, you notice Yahweh Sabaoth is translated there as Lord Almighty. The NIV does that. Now, David said to the Philistines, you come against me. This is David going out to fight Goliath, okay? David goes out to fight Goliath, and he says, you come against me with a sword and a spear and a javelin, but I come against you in the name of Yahweh Sabaoth, the God of the armies of Israel, whom you have defied. Oh, wow. That is so powerful. Because he's having this conversation with Goliath. Goliath says, what am I, a dog that you send this boy with sticks? And he says, no, I'm not a boy. I'm with God. I'm with the God of armies. I'm with the God Yahweh Sabaoth. And so that has tremendous power. So what does Yahweh Sabaoth mean? Yahweh Sabaoth actually means Lord of hosts. Or a host is also an army. A host is a mass of persons. A host is a large collection of soldiers. So why on earth would the NIV write that as the Lord Almighty? Because we've already covered the Lord Almighty, and there's a different name for the Lord Almighty. And so if the writer wanted it to say the Lord Almighty, he would have used that name. This name is quite different. It is something very specific and special. And the word is Yahweh Sabaoth, or I don't know if you guys do a lot of hymns, but there's a hymn written by Martin Luther, and he actually uses this word. He also uses the word bulwark, which I think is fun because not a lot of people know what a bulwark is, but it's a mighty fortress is our God. And I'll mess it up if I don't read it right. So this is number 675 in the Gray Hymnal. Verse 2 says, did we in our own strength confide, our striving would be losing. We're not the right man on our side, the man of God's own choosing. Dost ask who that may be? Christ Jesus, it is he. Lord Sabaoth, his name, from age to age the same, and he must win the battle. And so I've heard that Lord Sabaoth, I've sung that song since I was little. I love that song. It's a beautiful song. And people always think that means Sabbath, because Sabaoth looks like Sabbath. It's not Sabbath. It is Sabaoth. And so it's actually the Lord of armies. And Martin Luther knew that because he's writing about a bulwark or a tower, a mighty fortress is our God. And he is the God who has all of this army. So this means that God commands his army. This means that God commands his army. So question, why would God need an army? If God is all powerful and God created everything and God is the ruler of the heavens and the earth, why does he need an army?
To defeat Satan.
He can't do that on his own? I mean, he already defeat Satan at the cross, at the resurrection? So I want us to, I love thinking about these things. Yes, go ahead.
I'm wondering if it's more about the understanding that God knows that our faith isn't so strong that we can see the unseen, that there needs to be the notion of he's got power behind him.
Yes, absolutely.
And even if he could, do less than Thanos did to wipe things out, he could just, think it, and whatever happens. But for the purposes of sending the message, whether it's writers, whether it's preachers, whether it's missionaries, whether it's actually the hosts of angels, there's got to be the message to the people who may just be wavering.
Right.
That's my guess.
Yeah, that's good. I want to point out a couple things. Number one, I don't believe God needs anything from us. I don't think God needs us to be anything, but he wants us. That's the cool thing. He wants us. And so when we look at this Lord of hosts, we immediately translate it as army, but it also means a great collection of people. And so followers is another word. And so God commands his followers. So that puts it in slightly a different light than just his army, right? Because soldiers, what are soldiers? Soldiers are people who have committed themselves to follow that country or whatever. So did somebody have a hand up?
Yeah, I did.
Go ahead.
So really, we are God's army in many ways.
Yes.
Being the soldiers to make his message real instead of them just believing in God, seeing us, seeing how it's acting in our lives.
Absolutely. So we are God's collection of soldiers, but we're not. And again, I don't like the overall theme of soldiers, because that means we go and attack people. We attack sin, but our weapon is love. And so we go into the world and we take that message of love. We take that message of grace and mercy, and we take that message of God as our banner. God goes before us, and we are a great collection of people coming after him. We are following him. We are coming behind him, and we are letting him be that. So I've asked that question. Those are good thoughts. We'll keep this going here. What does it mean that God commands an army? Well, in the ancient world, the king was in command of the army. So the king, had to be strong and mighty, and all those things. And it's funny. I love the story of David and Goliath that we just read a little bit from, because Saul was a terrible king.
Yeah.
Because he's there, and he's the one he's actually head and shoulders above everybody else, meaning he was taller than everybody else. He was trained better than everyone else. He had the weaponry, he had everything, but he was too scared to go fight Goliath. So what kind of king was he? All those people were fighting under Saul's banner, and they were terrified. And then David comes in and says, no. We don't fight under Saul's banner. We fight under God, Yahweh Sabaoth. We fight under the God of the heavens. We fight the God who has an angel of armies and an angel of people. And so that is our king. And so, again, their king would be the commander of their army. So the king was right there with them. In battle, God is right there with us. He's the king. We are the subjects. He's the king. We are the subjects. Why is that important? Because suppose we go out to battle and God says, I want you to charge. And we all say, nope, not moving. And he yells, charge, charge. The battle is on. And we don't move. Is he really in charge?
No.
Is he really the authority? No, we are. And to me, that's what's happened with the church, is God has said very clearly to do things. I'll give you one example. God very clearly said the goal of the church is to make disciples. And yet we have thousands of churches in this world that exist with no purpose at all other than to be a social club.
Amen.
And it's frustrating, because God's saying, go make disciples in all the earth. And we go, nah, we're good. We're going to sit here. We're going to play our music. we're going to have a sermon. It can only be 38 minutes because if it goes 40, then our roast will burn. And so, we want to get home before the football game and everything. No, he's the king. We're the subjects. When he says fight, we fight. If he says retreat, we retreat. If he says whatever, we obey. He's the king. We're the subjects. And we are not alone in our fight. This to me is what is so important about the Lord of hosts. Satan does this thing where he makes us feel alone. Satan does this thing where he wants us to feel like we're the only person who has ever experienced that pain. And it's just not true. It's just not true. There are always other people who are with you and next to you. And so when I see God who commands an army, why would God need an army? God doesn't. God doesn't need an army. We need an army. God doesn't need a village. We need a village. They say it takes a village to raise a child. Yeah, that's what we need. That's not what God needs. God doesn't need that. We need it. And so God has this great army of us and angels and whatever else that he has. And we're not alone. We never have to be alone when we fight in this fight against evil. And again, Satan will always try to make us think like we're alone. Nobody else in the world knows how you're feeling. Well, yeah, there are other people who know. There are other people who've gone through what you've gone through. And so they're right there with you. And hopefully they're right there next to you, holding you up and pushing forward behind that standard, behind that banner. And so we are actually in a real fight. And I've said this recently, and I will keep saying this recently. The battle that we're in of good versus evil is escalated in the last 2 years in a way that I didn't think I would ever live to see. I mean, for real, we are at the point now where people are arguing that it's okay to kill a baby as soon as it's born.
Yes.
What? I mean, we're not even talking 3 months in. We're talking as soon as the baby is born.
Yes.
And that's just one of the issues we're facing. I mean, good grief. We've got so many issues splitting us every which way. And folks, we are in a tremendous war. And I preached a couple weeks ago that the war is not, it's not black and white. It's not mask or no mask. It's not Republican or Democrat. It's good versus evil.
Absolutely.
It is good versus evil. And man, we got to make sure we're on the right side. We got to make sure we're seeking God for everything that we do and say. And quite frankly, and I've been guilty of this, I've let my opinion slip out when it wasn't exactly thought through. And I thought, and so I don't want to do that. I want to follow God. I want to follow his standard. He goes before me. He sets what's right and I follow it. And so we have to make sure that we remember that. But we are in a very real fight. And the prize of that war is our soul.
Yes.
And Jeremy,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that's been occurring to me this last week, and I actually made a few joking posts on Facebook about it, is that everybody has a button to push.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I was joking with someone that, they're saying, "Oh, Amy Coney Barrett, who's for the Supreme Court justice, oh, she's going to bring us back to Handmaid's Tale time," or the idea that George Soros is in charge of everything and he's putting billions in all this stuff, and there were all these things, and my responses in each of these were just simple, like, well, all in all, we'll see what happens. I was kind of mealy mouthed, soft responding, but then they said, and the other thing is, Bill and Gloria Gaither are nothing anymore, just completely. And I said, okay, I don't know you anymore. You get out of here. And I playfully said you were dead to me and all these other, and it was just a playful thing,
Right.
But it was a point to say everyone has a button
Yep.
to push, and everyone has something that means a lot to them, and Satan knows that.
Yep.
And whether it's the pro-life people just hearing about a baby being left to die,
Mm-hmm.
or whether it's the pro-choice people thinking about the woman who's had the baby, who's maybe, let's say 16, saying, I don't know how I'm going to take care of it. I was kicked out by my parents.
Right.
And both sides have their hearts being tugged.
Yep.
And Satan knows where to push those buttons.
Absolutely.
And unfortunately, a lot of people do too.
Oh yeah. Oh well, we're good at that. Oh yeah, we know how to do that. Oh, we're real good at that. Yeah, I learned early on when I was preaching. I can say one name and I can get people fired up one way or the other. And so yeah, you definitely know that. Satan definitely knows that. But underneath all of that is the good versus evil. It's the battle of and we fight, and literally pastors are doing it, and it breaks my heart. We fight about these dumb things like Republican or Democrat. God doesn't care. God is above all. God doesn't need a Republican and people say, oh, we need to get so-and-so in there so God can do this. God can do anything he wants in the world. We need to pray that he'll put people in place that will make decisions that will help the world. But quite frankly, the world is going, south fast. Yep. And Jesus said it would, and Revelation said it would. So we simply have to know that we're on his side. It's a very real war, but we're not alone in our fight. And so if we're not alone, that also tells us this: we fight for his cause, not our own. Now hear me, we fight for his cause. So is God a Republican or a Democrat?
Neither.
Don't answer that. Is God black or white?
Yeah.
Is God pro-choice or pro-life? Well, that one I think is.
Yeah.
That's a bad example.
Jeremy, what are you trying to be? Methodist now on some
right. Hey,
soft Methodist thing there?
No.
Okay, sorry. Oh, wait, we're getting taped on that. You got to edit.
No, and I've got friends that watch this. It'll be like, wow, you God people really don't like us. He does not speak for. I got to have a little ad on the beginning that says the views expressed during this class are not indicative of any one person or. Okay, what I mean is we don't fight for our cause. Okay, so I am really up in arms about something. Pick a something. Okay. Here, I'll give you a fun example. I was sitting eating lunch or dinner one night watching TV, and the sad music came on, and it said, oh, there has to be something done soon because we're losing one of our greatest world treasures. I'm like, wow, what? The polar bear. And they actually had a number. Please send money to help save the polar bears. And I'm like, man, I don't give a rip if there are polar bears or not. I care about the people who are dying or starving or the sickness or the plague. And then they have the little dog commercials for the dog, and then the cat commercial for the cats. And I'm like, okay, but we have children starving. Well, guess what? We got little commercials for those too. Little kids with great big eyes saying, oh, please send us your money. Okay, that's all fine. But we fight for God's cause, not our own. And so we tend to hitch our wagon to one cause, and pastors do it too. And good grief, pastors will ride that cause sometimes all their life. I don't fight for my causes. I fight for God's cause. I don't speak for myself. I speak for God. I don't follow my own banner. I follow the banner of my Lord of hosts, the God of my army. I'm in his army. I'm his subject. I'm his soldier. I fight for his cause. And so if he says we need to oppose something, then I oppose it. But you better make sure that he is telling you to oppose it. Mm-hmm. And that's the hard part, because sometimes we get impassionate about it. And I'm just as guilty as everyone else. I get passionate about things and I'm like, you know what? That can't be, but we got to go to the Lord and say, God, you go first and we follow you. So fight for his cause, fight for something bigger. I've heard this my whole life. People are hungry to be a part of something bigger than themselves. Mm-hmm. Guess what? Our world is seeing it. People are protesting. They don't even know why they're protesting, but hey, it's bigger than us and it's going to change the world. So protest. Awesome. I just saw a video of a very angry young woman. She happened to be white, protesting for Black Lives Matter, which is fine, but she was doing it completely illegally, first of all, and very destructively. And I thought, how does that further her cause? And is that really her cause?
Right.
Like, she wanted to be on TV. She wanted her video to go viral, and it did. Congratulations. And she looks like an idiot. But that's what people want. They want their own cause. I want 15 minutes of fame. And so I'll do anything for it. That's fighting for us. We fight for God. And folks, I wish more than anything, the church could get together, rise up under his banner, under his flag, and move forward with his cause in the world, because his cause is seeing people saved. His cause is loving people. His cause is changing lives. Oh, I'm preaching, aren't I? Woo!
Yes, go for it.
Yes. Woo.
Preach it.
Where do we send our offerings?
To fight that cry. We need to fight for his cause. And so if you aren't sure whether or not your cause is his or yours, ask him. He'll show you. But fight for his cause. I got to move on. Otherwise, I'll be on that all night. All right. And if he has the army, if he's the God of hosts, if he's the God Almighty, if he's Yahweh Sabaoth, it means he has more power than we can ever imagine. Again, who is more powerful, one soldier or the general who commands 1,000 soldiers? Who has more power? The general. Because one soldier can only shoot one weapon at one time, but the general can command. Okay, so who's more, the general who has 1,000 or the admiral who has 10,000? Okay, who's more powerful, the admiral or the president who commands the entire army?
President.
Okay, who's more powerful, the president or the God who created every living being and every person and everything and everyone and everything that will be? You see what I'm saying? He has more power than we can even imagine. And we act like we have to fight this battle for him. He doesn't need us to fight this. He needs us to get out there and help people get saved. He needs us to take our time and use it to reach people so they don't end up in hell. God's not going to change. God's not worried about ending up in hell, but we should be. And we should be for our loved ones and our family. Our family. Yeah, exactly. That's a combination of friends and family. When you talk slower than your brain runs, your friends and your family and our neighbors and our lost people and folks, that's what we need to be about. We need to be about that banner. And lastly, it means we're all on the same side. Oh heavens, I get fired up about this one too. So just hang in there.
You mean we're all in this together?
Yes. I mean, we're all in this together. We are all on the same side. And I say that halfway flippantly and halfway jokingly, but unfortunately, Christians don't act like we're on the same side.
Right.
I mean, we just did it a minute ago. Well, you're starting to sound like a Methodist. Now, that was a joke, and it wasn't meant in any harm. And I have a close group of friends that we're all pastors here in town, and we do that to each other all the time. You may even hear me say in a sermon, you know, Pastor so-and-so needs to get saved because he's still at that church, which we do fun, and people understand that. But we have to remember we are on the same side. There's one God who is the Lord of hosts. It's his army, and we're all a part of it. So if you're Baptist or Methodist or Lutheran or Catholic or whatever, Church of God, we're on the same side. We have the same mission. And so long the church has fought against itself and been divided against itself. And one of the most scary scriptures to me is when Jesus said, a kingdom divided cannot stand, a house divided will fall. And the church has been divided for so long that we have no power. But if we will pull together on the same side, the gates of hell cannot stand against us. So we need to work on the same side. And folks, and I'm sincere, I tried to work with another Church of God in my town one time, and the pastor, who was a friend of mine, was like, nah, we're good. And I'm like, but we can work together. And he was like, nah, we're good. And I know another church that I tried to work with in another town. And I said, hey, we're both small churches. Instead of doing like our own separate thing, how about we come together? And the person said, no, because, you know, my people might start coming to your church.
Oh,
Yeah. Or
I've heard-
somebody might get saved, heaven forbid, or somebody might hear about Jesus and get excited. Oh, wow, we're on the same side, people. It's not about making our church look good. And I tell people this when they ask me how I feel about the church, I say, I am not a pastor of a church. I am a pastor for the kingdom. So if someone needs me, call me. If someone needs something, I'm here. I will pastor because I'm not a pastor just to build a church. I'm a pastor to build the kingdom.
Right.
And that's what we need to be, is building the kingdom. And I really believe if we build the kingdom, God will work on building our congregation, because we're trying to build the kingdom, and he will bless that. And so we have to understand we're called into unity. The Church of God is founded on two things. One of them is unity, and the Church of God stinks at one thing. It's unity. I'm
True.
like,
It's true.
oh, why are we so divided? Just in the Church of God. And I'm not even talking about, oh, good grief, there are, and this is every movement, every denomination, they're all facing this because people like to be divided. God said we're all in this together. We are one army with one God, with one banner. You see what I did there? We want to say, well, I'm a Church of God. Well, that's fine, because that's our battalion, right? And it's okay to be broken into battalions as long as we have one standard that is Jesus Christ. So if we're the battalion of the Church of God, and next to us is the battalion of the Baptist, and over there is the battalion of the whoever, then we're all working in the same army for the same standard, for the same goal, for the same God. And that's what needs to happen. That's what we need to see. And I'm passionate, obviously, about that. I wish that people would live that out. I wish that we could work together, because we can achieve so much. I'll give you one more quick example about where I am. We have about 7 churches in town, and several of them had youth ministries that all just failed. And they just keep doing it. They just keep doing it. We have a gym, and we have a larger building. And so I said, hey, send your kids to us. We can all work together. Nah, we don't want to do that. It's good. And so we've had churches that would rather shut down their youth program than to come together as a community youth program. And I don't know why that is. I have no idea why that is. I don't know if it's jealousy. I don't know if it's fear. I did have one pastor in town that said outright, you preach false doctrine. You're a heathen, because we're not his denomination. And I said, God bless you, friend.
At least you got the honest truth.
Yeah.
As far as he's concerned.
Right. I was like, more power to you. Good luck with that. But again, why can't 5 churches that have 3 youth come together and have one youth group that has 15 or 20 youth, and then it'll grow? And so, which is what we've done basically. And it's not because I'm amazing. It's just because I do something. I feed them. I make them dinner every Sunday, and I let them request what they want sometimes, and they love it, and it's gone crazy. So that's a secret there. Don't let that get out. If you feed children, they'll keep coming.
There you go.
So anyway, that is Yahweh Sabaoth. That is the Lord of hosts. We're on the same side in his army. He's the God who leads it, and he is the God who will continue to lead it, and he will be the strength that we follow. And he is our banner. He is the one that we follow and we chase after, and he sets the standard for us. God bless.
Jeremy,
I'm going to end here. God bless you, folks. Have a great night, and be safe.